Okay, so there's a support line, and if you have any issues, you can always contact me. Sometimes what students do is they'll just take a screenshot and say, I can't get this thing to work, and I can take a look at it and hopefully help you. Um, but if it's like a technical, like logging in and things like that, definitely contact Cengage. I may not be able to help out with that kind of stuff. All right, so what I want you to do now is go back to My Marymount, and on the top line here, you're going to click on the email button. When you do that, notice in the address bar, you're actually in office.com. Okay, so you're logging in to Office. So some of you may need to log into Office right now. I'm automatically logged in, so I'll give you a chance to do that. Sign in, I guess they call it. And so since this is web-based, remember you could do this from anywhere. Any time you have access to the internet. And your Microsoft Office password may or may not be the same as your My Marymount password. Just depends on how you set it up. What's this? Oh, you don't want to down. No. You don't want to do that. Yeah, you're in. Yeah. Yep. So your screen should look like what's up on the screen up there. Okay. Does the school provide any kind of training in this stuff to you guys? Is there like technology, a video? They don't sit you down and have you go through all this stuff? Freshman seminar goes through this. Okay. But not all of you come in as a freshman. Oh, okay. Transfer seminar. Okay. All right, good. Well, do they go over this stuff in there? Oh. All right. So your screen may or may not, it's going to look different than mine. It keeps track of all this. So just so you know, again, we are in office.com, and these are apps, right? So these are actually, if you click on these are actually the online apps. They're not the same as the version that you would have when you are working off of your desktop or your laptop. So if you want to install a laptop or desktop version of Microsoft Office with all the latest and greatest onto your computer, as a Marymount student, you get that for free. It's included. Did you know that? Yes? No? Okay, so click on where it says install Office. Don't do this, but this is what you'll be doing at home. And then you'll click on this one. It says Office 365 apps. Includes Outlook, OneDrive for Business, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and more. Okay? So there are a lot of different apps. In fact, if you click on down below where it says all apps, you can see there's other ones as well. I don't know what video is. There's a to-do list. There's OneNote. Anybody use OneNote? Yeah, you use it a little bit. What do you think of it? Not bad? Does it help you stay organized? Okay. I have no idea what Kaizen is. OneDrive. So here's the the tool that you use, the app that you use to save your files to the cloud is OneDrive. So if I click on OneDrive, in my case, I set up my OneDrive, and so it takes me to the files that I have stored on OneDrive. If you click on OneDrive, are you able to get to OneDrive? Do you have it? You don't have it as an app? We got to get you guys set up with OneDrive. Do you have it? It's working for you. You could save it on your home computer. Oh, so here's the thing. You're going to be working on these files here, there, and everywhere. So do not save your files on these hard drives. I mean, you could do it like while you're in the class, but if you do, get it off, because last year they came through in the middle of the semester because so many people were saving large files on a few of these machines. They came through and they cleared them all out. And so people that had stuff saved on the hard drives here lost all their work. So you don't want that to happen. Don't let that happen to you. So either save it on a thumb drive, email it to yourself, or my recommendation is to try to get OneDrive to work for you, because once you get it to work, you can access it anywhere. It's a little, Microsoft makes it really confusing and complicated, but once you figure it out, you can get, it's very helpful, and you won't lose stuff. It happens every year. It's the same as Google Docs. It just works just like that. If you want to use Google Docs, use Google Docs. If you can get it, yeah, Google Docs would be a different, you'd have to log into that account. Yeah. Google Docs, Dropbox, any kind of cloud sharing service is a good way to keep track of your files. Some of you have access to OneDrive, I can see, and some of you don't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to email Diverge, our technology support partner, all your addresses to make sure that everyone gets access to OneDrive. Okay? So don't worry about it if you don't have it right now. Any questions with Microsoft stuff? So lots of apps. This one, this Power BI, is an app that we're going to be covering later in the semester. It's a pretty cool graphical interface app. It allows you to pull in data from publicly available data, push pin maps, like if you want to identify where customers might be on a location, it'll do all that for you. It's very, very cool and sophisticated. Anyway, more stuff than you could possibly use at any one time. So that's that. Okay. So let's talk about Kaizen. You said, what language is this here? What language is up there? Chinese? It's Japanese? It's not Chinese? Well, it's Japanese, but my Chinese students last semester said it's the same characters. It's Kaizen, which means literally means change good or change for the better. It's a Japanese word. It's really a philosophy, a way of doing things. And what Kaizen is, it's a way of improving things. It's based on the concept that you make small incremental changes in order to improve things over a period of time, rather than just going for radical changes. All right, so after World War II, the Japanese were devastated. Their whole economy, we bombed them, and their whole economy was destroyed. But there was a guy by the name of W. Edwards Deming who went over to Japan from the U.S. and actually to do the census, and he had heard about, he had helped the U.S. manufacturing during World War II, improve its quality and using measurement. And so they asked him to start doing some lectures. He did that, and then they have something called the Deming Prize, which is given to businesses. It's a very prestigious prize there. And anyway, I had a chance to work with Dr. Deming back when I was with the Navy, and he had a very strong influence. And a lot of the approach is based on this notion of Kaizen. So after World War II, the Japanese couldn't really produce much of anything, and what they did produce, believe it or not, none of you are old enough in here to remember when something said "Made in Japan." It used to stand for junk. It was just they used to make things out of old beer cans and soda cans. I used to get toys. You could actually see the soda label on the inside of the metal toys that they would sell. Now, when you think of Toyota today, what do you think of? What? A big business. What do you think about their quality? Anybody drive a Toyota? No. Um, nice. Okay. Anybody have a car? Who has a car in here? What kind of cars do you drive? Volkswagen, Saturn, Mercedes. Nobody drives a Japanese car? You have a Toyota? How is it working for you? They're Toyota. They're super reliable. They're super reliable cars. Um, and so when I was working for the Navy, uh, they were trying to figure out how come the Japanese were starting to kick our butts when it came to the quality of the cars that were being made over there. And in fact, Ford uh, at the time made something. I think it was the Escort or the Focus. I forget which one it was, but they were making so many of them they couldn't keep up with production, so they outsourced, they offshored the production of the transmissions for the Focus to a Japanese company, which happened to be they owned 25% of it. Was called Mazda, right? So they asked Mazda, they sent them the specs. They shipped them over to Japan. They built the transmissions in their Mazda transmission plant, and they came back and they put them in the Focus. Well, after about a year, the customers that wanted to buy a new Focus started walking into the showrooms and said, "I would like to buy the Focus with the Japanese transmission, not the American transmission." And so they got back to headquarters and they're trying to figure out what's going on here. And they said that I don't know. Let's figure out. We gave them all the same specs, so they started taking apart the transmissions and they started measuring to see, like what was different, and everything was the same except for when they went to measure one transmission and then measured another transmission, there was no variation in any of their micrometer measurements. Everything was exactly the same, no variation whatsoever. With the American cars, there was a little bit of slippage and things like that. And what happens if you know about mechanics, anytime there's a little bit of slippage, it starts to create wear and tear over time, and that's where breakdowns happen. And so if everything fits perfectly, you're never going to get gasket leaks and things like that. And so that's what was happening with the Japanese transmissions. So Americans didn't want to buy the American transmissions. And so they said, okay, now we got to figure out what they're doing. So they went over to Japan and they found out that they use this approach called Kaizen, and which is basically constantly measuring whether things are going out of whack and constantly figuring out ways to anticipate problems and make small incremental improvements over time. So anyway, that's that Ford actually had a secret video. It was called the Batavia incident, and since we were with the Navy, they gave us a copy of it, and we were showing it all over the Navy, and we created this whole approach called total quality management, and it later caught on. It became Six Sigma in industry. So that's all about industry. I know a lot of you are business majors, not all of you are business majors, and so it's like, so what does this have to do with Excel and data analysis? Well, you're going to improve something, your course project is going to be you. You're going to be your project, and you're going to be using data to see whether or not you're making progress. And you're going to be using Excel to manipulate the data, and you'll be able to see whether or not there's random variation or there's systematic variation, which we'll talk about later on. So that's Kaizen. Let me just show you a video because it's one of these talking head videos, but the guy has so much energy, and he actually does connect this notion of Kaizen to self-improvement, which is really what your course project is about. So let me show it to you. He has a lot of energy, and he's kind of loud, so let me just get him up here.
What's happening, people? Everybody wants to change for the better, and in today's video, I'm going to be speaking about the Japanese business strategy that rebuilt their economy and how you might implement this in your own life. Now, I know a lot of you are thinking, Kaizen, what's that? Well, firstly, calm down. There is no perfect translation from Japanese into English, which is why we use the Japanese word Kaizen. But roughly translated, Kaizen means continuous and slow improvement. The Kaizen method became popular after the Second World War, when Japan was on its knees financially. It was a time for them as a nation to stop and think and rebuild. The method focuses on process and systems rather than targets and goals. It focuses on working smarter, not harder. It's an attempt to make every aspect of a business run as smoothly as possible, reducing it down to its bare essentials. It's about purposefully and regularly asking yourself, what obstacles do I face? And then systematically removing those obstacles one by one. When a person reaches the highest level of Kaizen, that person is referred to as a Zenkai. Zenkai, that sounds pretty cool. I want to be one of them. Zenkai is an ancient master, famous for not even wasting one drop of water. As I mentioned, one of the most important aspects of Kaizen is that it happens very slowly, because it doesn't do us any favors to change everything overnight, whether that's in our business life or in our personal life. Instead, with Kaizen, a person would implement one change and then stick with that change for an extended period of time until that change became second nature. Does that sound familiar? Self-improvement at its core, while not exclusive, is a very American idea. The Americans have even put their own brand on it, the American dream, starting from the bottom and rising up to the top, just like Drake. However, the way that Japan's economy has bounced back after such devastation speaks to the benefits of the Kaizen methodology, as opposed to the American style of self-improvement, hard work, pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, white knuckle, pedal to the metal. Kaizen focuses not so much on hard work, but on creating systems that makes succeeding easy. Kaizen doesn't actually require that much discipline up front. And it's important as well that I reiterate up front, because once you make a change with Kaizen, you have to stick with it. Otherwise, it's all for nothing. There is no backstepping with Kaizen. It's only forward, always forward. But the steps are so small that you hardly even notice the change until you look back over your shoulder and realize how far you've come. If you ever find yourself overwhelmed or pulling your hair out over the changes that you're making, then that's a surefire sign that you are not practicing Kaizen. Because one of Kaizen's principles is the elimination of a hard and stressful process. Now, you might be watching this and thinking, now hold on a minute, I'm not a Japanese businessman. Well, that's okay, because like I said, Kaizen doesn't have to be limited to business. Let me explain how you can implement this in your own life. Step 1, decide on what you want to become. If you want to get in shape, if you want to get a girlfriend or a boyfriend or a promotion or learn to tango, whatever it is, make a list, and very importantly, don't hold back. because this is your life. Step 2, and some of you aren't going to like this, but take a look at that long list of goals and pick just one. Or the thing is, if you're thinking about tackling all of your problems, going after all of your goals all at the same time, then you can't use the Kaizen methodology to do that, because you'd be completely going against the concept. Pick one thing, the thing that would improve your life the most, and don't worry, because you've got a long life to make other improvements. Just pick one for now. Step number 3, take a look at that goal, focus on it, and then write a list of reasons why that isn't already your reality. Because if it's something you want, then what's been stopping you? Once you have that list of reasons, big or small, it doesn't matter. You know all of the obstacles that you have to overcome, and then you can start by removing them one by one. And personally, I would suggest starting with the smallest reason and then working your way up. Occasionally, it can be difficult to know exactly what's been stopping us, and sometimes it helps in these circumstances to start at the end. So imagine that you're at your goal, and then ask yourself, what would have to happen for this to be a reality? And then you go one step back, and then you can say, what would have to happen for this to be a reality? And work your way back all the way to the present, where you stand now. This is how I started to implement Kaizen in my own life before I'd even heard the word. I wanted to be in incredible shape, six-pack, pecs, traps like Tom Hardy in Warrior. Now, I know, that's a long way away. So I reverse engineered it, and I asked myself, what do I have to do to get Tom Hardy traps? And then I said, well, obviously I need to work out. But the problem is, I don't really have any time to work out. In the evenings is the best time, but by that stage, I'm so tired, and my willpower is so low. So then I decided, well, maybe I'll have to wake up early. So I started waking up at 5 a.m. and then I started a workout routine, starting at 5 a.m. And slowly I started to build on this. And I thought to myself, well, also, if I want to get a six-pack, I'm going to have to go on a diet. And I'm going to have to go on a diet that's all about fat loss. So then I discovered the keto diet, and on it went, and hopefully on and on it will go. I focused on one of those many little things at a time. And now don't get me wrong, like I said, I'm not in fantastic Tom Hardy Warrior shape, but I'm in much better shape than I was when I started this process. And as long as that's true, and as long as I keep doing what I'm doing, then it's only a matter of time. Decide on what you want. Use the Kaizen strategy, and it'll only be a matter of time for you too. So now you know what Kaizen is. Now there's no excuse. Go forward, earn yourself the title of Zenkai.
Okay, so Brits sound so much smarter, don't they? And more enthusiastic. So he talks about Kai. I mean, he talks about Zenkai, but he also talks about beginning with the end in mind. So that's what we're going to be doing, is try to figure out what your goals are going to be, what the picture of good looks like, and then starting and working your way back. And I'm going to be giving you all the tools to help you do this. So we're going to be building your course project a little bit at a time. First, you got to figure out what you're going to work on, and then we'll figure out what's getting in the way, and strategies to make improvements. So we'll do that step by step. When I was, I told you I was working for the consulting companies, and traveling and eating in all the nicest restaurants. Well, I managed to gain about 70 pounds along the way over a period of 4 or 5 years. And I go to the doctor, and I wasn't feeling well, and had my annual physical, and the tests came back, and they just didn't look so hot, and the doctor's like, you have something called a fatty liver. I'm like, what is that? Is that sound? It's like, isn't that what they do to ducks to make pate? It's like, I said, I don't want to be a human duck. So he said, well, we can put you on some meds, and the sort of thing. I said, well, what would happen? What would happen if I lost wait. He says, well, there's, it may or may not get better, but so I said, that's it. I've had enough, right? But 70 pounds is a pretty daunting task, right? So I actually, it was long before this video came out. It was probably about 10 years ago. And at the same time, my daughter started diving over at Belmont. They used to have the diving platform and all that. So while she was diving, I'm sitting in the stands, and I could see people swimming laps, in the pool. So I'm like, well, I can swim laps, and they can even watch her dive, while I'm waiting. Might as well. So I started doing that. I get in the pool. I get about halfway across the pool, and I'm like, I can't even get to the other side, which is pathetic for me because I used to be a swimmer. I swam in high school, and I played water polo. So I was like, oh my God. But, I stuck at it. So that was the first day. I got, maybe 10 laps in. Then the next time I added a couple more laps, right? And so rather than trying to, like overdo it, and I did overdo it at times in the beginning, I just gradually did it. And so over a period of about 18 months, I lost 70 pounds. So that's like what? How many pounds a week? Like less than a pound a week, right? So it was very, very gradual. You could barely see it on the scale. The only good thing was that the scale I used was at the gym had one of those little things where it goes by 50 pounds every time. Well, when you get to move that thing to the next 50-pound rung down below, it's pretty cool. So anyway, that's my Kaizen story. So in fact, last spring, I actually did the project along with the students. I may do it again this year. To show you how it works. So some of the examples you'll see in the videos are based on that. So that's Kaizen. Has anybody ever who has actually changed something about themselves in here? Try to improve something. Yes? Kinda? What'd you change? What did you do? Ah, okay. Okay. That's working. Working. How long have you been doing it? That's good. That's good. How long do you think it takes to acquire a new habit, a new skill? 21 days. Where'd you get that from? Anybody else have any other guesses? I've heard 21 days. Um, I think the research shows that it takes about 3 months to, acquire a new skill, and about 18 months to master it, to master something. So, I'm not talking about, something real simple, but it takes a while. Um, I teach the leadership class. We talk a little bit about how you have to rewire your brain, and it takes a long time for your brain to develop new habits. So, um, other thoughts on Kaizen? Does it make sense? Yeah. Um, so here's the wellness wheel. Have any of you gone to Dr. Ryan Alcantara's presentation on wellness? He talks about the wellness wheel. So what this is like, so when you start to think about what it is you'd like to change about yourself for this course project, here are some categories. They are emotional, spiritual, intellectual, physical. So that's kind of what I was talking about, right? My health, although it's probably more than that. Environmental, financial, professional, and social. So these are all the different categories. Maybe emotional has to do with, how you're feeling about things, your psychological state, right? Spiritual, intellectual, physical, environmental. There's a lot of things. Maybe in your own immediate environment, maybe you want to become more green. Maybe you want to stop using less plastic and, use refillable water bottles. Um, So financial, professional, social. Some folks did a lot of social networking kind of things for their projects. They were keeping track of how much time they spent online, and social networking, and because there's apps that can track all that, it's pretty easy to get it recorded and enter it into the Excel spreadsheet. So I had one student who quit Instagram, wound up from this class, wound up quitting Instagram and Facebook, and I'm not suggesting that you have to do that, but you could at least maybe make a reduction in the amount of time, if that is your desire. So these are some potential categories here that you can work on. So that's what I would like you to do for part of your homework for this weekend, is to brainstorm some ideas on what you'd like to change about yourself. Just start thinking about it for this course project. Think about it, something that you can do on a daily basis. So yeah, if it's like procrastination, there's probably a way to there's probably a way to track that, right? What did you, Nicolina, did you have any ways to measure whether or not you're procrastinating, more or less? Okay. 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 All right. So yeah, you set aside some time. Did you put it in your calendar? Did you block out time? Okay. You work on a planner. Okay. So you did write it down and you planned for that time. Okay, cool. Excellent. So that's terrific. So it's that kind of thing, something that you can do on a daily basis. I had some students do have businesses, and I've had students try to do things with their businesses. But the challenge with a business, like one student bought and sold cars, is that he only bought and sold one like every couple of weeks. There wasn't enough data, so we had to start saying, okay, well, what is it you're trying to do to increase the volume? Oh, I'm marketing. So you have to kind of back up and figure out that sort of thing. So, but I don't want you to assume that it has to be specifically about yourself. If you're more interested in doing something about your business, if you're a business major, that'd be fine. So that's that assignment. Your other assignment is to finish up the Module 1 SAM training. So that's in the practice mode, and then do the Module 1 SAM exam. There's an article by a guy by the name of Thomas Oppong. It's just a blog, but it just reinforces this concept of Kaizen. Jenny, you said you read the article. What do you think? Yeah. Good. Good. Yeah, he's a pretty practical guy, and it's basically the same concepts. So that'll just reinforce it, and then just remember there's no class on Tuesday. I will be here at school, so if you want to stop by my office, I'll be here during the regular office hours. And during this time as well. Okay? Questions? All right. So have a good rest of your week. I'll see you in a week, if not before.